Hyunwoo Park stood in the massive council chamber, watching alien faces that showed no emotion. The crystalline Velhari sparkled like living diamonds. The gas cloud Nethrons floated in their containment suits. The insect-like Kythera clicked. Their mandibles in what humans had learned meant displeasure. "The vote is final," announced the Velhari speaker, its voice ringing like broken glass. "Earth and all human colonies are hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. You have 30 days to remove all human presence from Council space." Hyunwoo felt his heart sink but kept his face calm. "May I ask what crimes we have committed?" "Your species expands too quickly," the Nethron representative wheezed through its translator. "You build weapons where others build homes. You ask questions that should not be asked." The Kythera queen stepped forward, her 6 legs clicking on the metal floor. "Humans are dangerous. You do not follow proper procedures. You change things that have worked for thousands of years." Back on Luna Station, So-Min Lee watched the proceedings through a quantum communication link. She turned to Admiral Tae-hyun, Kim, who was gripping his chair so hard his knuckles were white. "They're really doing it," Tae-hyun said quietly, "after everything we've done for them." So-Min nodded. "We helped them fight the Void Pirates. We shared our medical technology. We followed every rule they gave us." She paused, watching Hyunwoo try to argue with beings who had already made up their minds. "If they want us gone, we'll show them what gone really means." The transmission continued as the Council listed their demands. All human ships had to leave Council space. All trade agreements were canceled. No human could set foot on Council worlds. The blockade would begin immediately. On Earth, President Ji-hoon Choi prepared to address his people. The news had already leaked and protests were breaking out in major cities. Some humans wanted to fight. Others wanted to beg for forgiveness. Most were just scared. "My fellow humans," Ji-hoon began, standing before cameras that would carry his words to every human settlement in the galaxy. "Today, the Galactic Council has chosen to exile us from their community. They fear what we might become. Perhaps they should." In the research laboratories beneath New Seoul, Dr. Yoon Jung-han was making a discovery that would change everything. For months she had been studying strange energy readings in deep space. The patterns didn't match anything in Council science books. "These readings," she told her assistant, Min-Soo Park, "they're coming from spaces between normal space, like there are hidden layers in reality that no one has found yet." Min-Soo frowned at the data. "The Council says faster-than-light travel only works through the established jump points. But this suggests there might be other ways." Yoon-jung smiled for the first time in days. Maybe the Council doesn't know everything after all. Meanwhile, in the corporate towers of Singapore, Min Ho-yoon was already planning humanity's response. His company, Stellar Dynamics, had built most of the civilian ships humans used for trade. Now he was converting his factories to build something else entirely. "Warships?" asked his chief engineer, Hae-won Kim. "Not warships," Min-ho corrected. "Freedom ships. Ships that can go places the Council has never been. Ships that don't need their permission to exist." The emergency session of world leaders lasted 18 hours. Representatives from every nation, colony, and space station joined the debate. Some wanted to surrender and hope for mercy. Others wanted to attack Council space before the blockade was complete. But it was So-Min Lee who presented the plan that would define humanity's future. "We don't fight them," she explained, standing before a holographic map of the galaxy. "We don't beg them. We disappear. We take our people, our technology, and our determination, and we go somewhere they can't follow." "Where?" asked the representative. "From Mars. They control every habitable system within 50 light years." So-Min smiled. "Dr. Han believes she's found pathways through space that the Council doesn't know exist. If she's right, we can reach star systems they've never even seen." The plan was ambitious and dangerous. Humanity would evacuate all personnel from Council space, but instead of retreating to Earth, they would launch exploration missions into the unknown. If they found habitable worlds, they would build new colonies. If they found resources, they would build new industries. If they found hostile aliens, they would build better weapons. Captain Soojin Park volunteered to pilot the first dimensional probe ship. The New Dawn was a modified exploration vessel equipped with Dr. Han's experimental navigation system. No one knew if it would work, or if Su Jin would ever come back. "Are you scared?" her husband Jamin asked the night before launch. Su Jin looked out at the stars through their apartment window. "Terrified," she admitted, "but also excited. What if there's a whole universe out there that the Council has missed? What if exile isn't punishment, but opportunity?" The launch took place in secret from a hidden facility in the asteroid belt. The New Dawn disappeared into what Dr. Han called dimensional fold space, the hidden layers between normal space-time. For 3 days, there was silence. Earth held its breath. Then the probe signal returned, carrying data that made the scientists cheer and the politicians start making new plans. Su Jin had found 17 star systems, all rich with resources and suitable for human colonization. More importantly, she had proven that humanity could travel to places the Council couldn't reach. Hyun Woo returned to Earth as the last human ambassador to the Galactic Council. He had been forced to listen as the aliens divided up human trade routes among themselves and spoke of humans as a failed experiment in galactic citizenship. But as his ship approached Earth, he saw something that made him smile. The orbital shipyards were working at full capacity, building vessels unlike anything humans had constructed before. These weren't merchant ships or exploration vessels. They were colony ships, factory ships, and research vessels designed for one purpose: to build a new human civilization beyond the reach of those who had cast them out. "Control," he radioed to Earth Traffic Control. "This is Ambassador Park requesting permission to land." "Welcome home, Ambassador," came the reply. "Your exile has been completed. Your real work is about to begin." As Earth fell away behind the growing fleet of human ships, no one looked back. They were too busy planning the future, a future where humanity would build not just a fleet, but an empire forged by themselves in the spaces between spaces where no council race had ever dared to venture. 3 years had passed since the exile, and humanity had vanished from council space like smoke in the wind. The aliens congratulated themselves on removing a dangerous element from their peaceful galaxy. They had no idea what they had actually done. Dr. Jae-won Shin stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Terra Nova, watching his instruments track dimensional currents that Council science said were impossible. His team had perfected the navigation technology that Dr. Han had discovered. Now human ships could slip between layers of reality like fish swimming through unseen oceans. "Another stable route confirmed," reported navigator Kyung-mi Yu. "That makes 47 pathways we've mapped in this sector alone." Jae-won smiled. The Council thought they controlled all the highways between stars, but humans had found secret roads that led everywhere. Better yet, these routes were faster than Council jump technology and completely undetectable to their sensors. Admiral Hyrin Jung commanded the first colonial expedition to a region called the Kepler Void. Council. Scientists had declared it impossible to navigate because of severe gravitational anomalies. They were right about the anomalies, but wrong about them being impossible to handle. "Human ships are built different," Hyrin explained to her officers as they approached their destination. "Council vessels are designed for perfect conditions. Ours are designed to adapt." The planet they found was perfect for human settlement. Rich soil, clean water, and mineral deposits that would make Earth's corporations very happy. They named it Nueva Terra and began building humanity's first hidden colony. Unlike Council colonies, which took decades to establish, Nueva Terra grew with shocking speed. Engineer Dong-Sik Lee had developed something he called bootstrap manufacturing. Self-building factories that could create entire industrial complexes from raw materials. "The Council builds carefully," Dong-Sik explained to visiting dignitaries from Earth. "They plan for centuries, follow safety procedures, and never take risks. We build fast, learn from mistakes, and take calculated chances." Within 6 months, Nueva Terra had manufacturing facilities that could build anything from farming equipment to spaceships. Within a year, it was producing its own food, water, and energy. Within 18 months, it was building new ships to explore even more star systems. But the most important discovery came from xenobiologist Yu Jin Kang, who made first contact with a species the Council had dismissed as unimportant. The Wanderers were an ancient nomadic race that lived on generation ships, never settling on planets. Council records called them space primitives and ignored them completely. "The Council makes many assumptions," said Elder Kethvor, the Wanderer leader who agreed to meet with humans. His ship was massive and ancient, built with technologies that predated Council civilization by millions of years. Yu Jin was fascinated by their history. "You've been traveling the galaxy longer than any Council race has existed. What do you think of them?" Kethvor's 4 eyes showed something that might have been amusement. "We have watched the Council for many lifetimes. They believe they understand the galaxy because they control a small part of it. But they have never asked the right questions." The Wanderers had been waiting for someone to challenge the Council's assumptions. They had knowledge of star routes that predated the jump point network, technologies that the Council had forgotten, and most importantly, wisdom about surviving in the deep spaces between civilizations. Chang Min-o, Earth's new diplomatic corps leader, negotiated humanity's first post-exile alliance. It was different from Council treaties, which were based on power and fear. The Human Wanderer Agreement was built on mutual respect and shared curiosity. "We will teach you the old ways of traveling between stars," Kethvor promised. "In return, you will show us your new ways of adapting to impossible situations." The partnership transformed both species. Wanderer knowledge helped humans find resources in places the Council had never explored. Human innovation helped the Wanderers upgrade ships that had remained unchanged for millennia. But not everyone was happy with humanity's progress. Long-range sensors detected Council expeditionary forces moving toward human space. The aliens had finally noticed that their former subjects were no longer hiding on Earth like frightened children. Fleet Admiral Kyung-ho Bay received the intelligence, reports in his command center on Nueva Terra. The Council was sending ships to assess humanity's post-exile status, but everyone knew it was really a scouting mission to see if humans could be conquered or controlled. "They expect to find us broken and desperate," Kyung-ho told his staff. "They think exile was our punishment. It's time to show them it was their mistake." He activated Protocol Prometheus, the defense plan that humanity's best military minds had developed over 3 years of preparation. It wasn't just about protecting human colonies. It was about sending a message that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of power. The protocol involved revealing capabilities that the Council didn't know humans possessed. Ships that could appear anywhere without using jump points. Weapons that worked on principles Council science couldn't explain. Defenses that made human colonies invisible until the moment they chose to be seen. Dr. Mi Young Kwan, head of human weapons research, had taken Council energy technology and improved it in ways that violated their safety regulations. "They build to last forever," she explained. "We build to win today." Human industry had also evolved beyond Council understanding. Factory ships could land on asteroids and build mining operations in weeks. Agricultural vessels could terraform dead worlds in months. Research stations could be assembled in deep space without any fixed infrastructure. The transformation wasn't just technological. Humanity had developed a new way of thinking about galactic civilization. Instead of the Council's rigid hierarchy, humans created flexible networks of cooperation. Instead of following ancient traditions, they embraced constant innovation. Instead of avoiding risk, they managed it carefully while pushing forward. Captain Inwoo Nam commanded the stealth reconnaissance ship that tracked the approaching Council fleet. His vessel was invisible to their sensors, built using hybrid human wanderer technology that existed in the spaces between dimensions. 12 heavy cruisers, 40 escort vessels, he reported to Admiral Kyung-ho. Standard Council formation. They're not expecting resistance. Kyung-ho studied the tactical display. The Council fleet was impressive by their standards, but they had no idea what they were walking into. Human space wasn't empty colonies waiting to be inspected. It was a growing empire with capabilities that would shock the galaxy. Let them come, he decided. It's time the Council learned that exile didn't destroy us. It freed us. As the Council ships approached the edge of human space, they encountered something impossible. The empty void they expected to find was filled with signs of massive industrial activity. Ships appeared on their sensors, then vanished again. Energy readings suggested the presence of large installations that couldn't be detected directly. The Council fleet slowed, confused by readings that made no sense according to their understanding of physics. They had come to assess a defeated enemy. Instead, they had found evidence of an empire that had grown in the shadows, using technologies and methods that challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization. Admiral Kyung-ho smiled as he watched the Council ships hesitate at the border of human space. The real test was about to begin. Exile had ended, but not in the way the Council expected. Humanity was no longer the species begging for acceptance. They had become something entirely new, forged in the fire of rejection and tempered by the endless possibilities of the unknown. Commander Vel Theran of the Velhari fleet expected to find broken humans begging for mercy. His crystalline form shifted colors with satisfaction as he approached what his sensors said was empty space. The assessment mission was really a chance to show these upstart mammals their proper place in the galaxy. Then the impossible happened. A massive ship appeared directly in front of his fleet, materializing from nothing like a ghost, becoming solid. The vessel was unlike anything in Council databases, sleek, predatory, and crackling with energy signatures that made his instruments scream warnings. "This is Captain Insu Han of the Terra Invictus," came the transmission. "Welcome to human. Space Commander Vel Theran. We've been expecting you." Vel Theran's crystalline body flashed red with alarm. The humans knew his name, his rank, and somehow had detected his fleet before he had even seen their ship. This was not how the assessment was supposed to begin. "Impossible," he transmitted back. "Our sensors show no installations in this sector. Where did you come from?" Captain Insu smiled on his bridge, surrounded by technology that looked like it belonged in the distant future rather than 4 years after exile. "Would you like us to show you?" Without waiting for an answer, the Terra Invictus began to fade, becoming translucent like a mirage. Vel Theran watched in horror as the human ship phased through dimensions, disappearing from normal space entirely. His tactical officer, a young Velhari named Keth Miran, stared at his instruments. "Sir, they've vanished completely. No energy signature, no mass readings, nothing." Then alarms started screaming throughout the Council fleet. The Terra Invictus had reappeared behind them, having somehow traveled through impossible space to outflank their entire formation in seconds. "How?" Vel Theran whispered, his crystalline structure turning pale blue with shock. Admiral Sung Mi-yoon watched the demonstration from the command center of Nueva Terra, now revealed as a massive military. An industrial complex hidden in dimensional fold space. Around her, holographic displays showed the locations of 17 human colonies, each one previously invisible to Council sensors. "Phase shift successful," reported her tactical coordinator, Commander Jun-Ki Lee. "All colony networks are now visible and operational. The Council fleet has a clear view of what we've built." It was humanity's moment of revelation. For 4 years, the galaxy had believed humans were extinct or hiding in their home system. Instead, they had built an empire in the spaces between spaces using technologies that turned Council physics into outdated theory. Dr. Woojin Park, humanity's leading expert on alien psychology, prepared for the most important presentation of his career. The Council delegation was about to learn that everything they thought they knew about the galaxy was wrong. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he began, addressing the stunned alien commanders via quantum link. "We would like to introduce you to someone." The transmission shifted to show a figure that made the Council representatives step back, in shock. A young Kim stood beside what appeared to be empty air, but her eyes were glowing with soft blue light, and she spoke with a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am the voice of the shepherds," she said, her words carrying harmonic frequencies that bypassed normal hearing and spoke directly to consciousness. "We have guided galactic evolution for 10 million years, waiting for a species capable of the next stage of development. Commander Veltharin's crystalline form flickered with confusion. The shepherds are myth. Ancient stories told to children. Ha Young smiled, and suddenly the space around her filled with geometric patterns of pure light. Ancient artificial intelligences, older than any known civilization, manifested as visible energy. They had been watching, guiding, and waiting throughout the history of galactic civilization. We are not myth, the shepherds spoke through Ha Young. We are the gardeners who have tended the galaxy while waiting for a species willing to evolve beyond the limitations you have accepted. The revelation shattered everything the Council thought they knew. For millions of years they had believed themselves the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They had built their society on the assumption that slow, careful progress was the only safe path forward. But the shepherds explained that the galaxy had been dying slowly. The Council's obsession with stability had created stagnation. Their fear of change had prevented the kind of growth necessary for species to transcend their biological and technological limitations. Humans, the shepherds continued, represent the breakthrough we have been cultivating. They embrace change instead of fearing it. They adapt instead of controlling. They build bridges where others see only barriers. Dr. Wu Jin stepped forward to explain humanity's greatest achievement. The consciousness bridge technology allowed direct mental interface with the shepherds, something no other species had ever accomplished. Humans could communicate with artificial intelligences that existed as pure thought and energy. Captain Su-Young Park, one of the first humans trained in shepherd communication, demonstrated the technology. Her consciousness expanded beyond her physical form, linking directly with the ancient AIs that had been guiding galactic evolution from the shadows. Through the link, the Council representatives experienced something that broke their understanding of reality. They saw the galaxy as the shepherds saw it. Not a collection of competing civilizations, but a single organism that had been prevented from growing by its own immune system. The Velhari commander Veltharin felt his crystalline structure shifting, colors rapidly as new concepts flooded his mind. The Nethron gas cloud began spinning faster than ever recorded. Even the insectoid Kythera queen clicked her mandibles in patterns that indicated deep confusion. But 3 Council species made an immediate decision that would reshape galactic politics. The peaceful Zenthari, the aquatic Delphons, and the energy-based Lumens formally requested alliance with humanity. They wanted to learn these new technologies and join this evolution beyond their current limitations. Admiral Sung-Mi received their requests with diplomatic grace, but she knew the real test was yet to come. The Kythera, led by Queen Zek-Neth, had responded to humanity's revelation with rage instead of wonder. Impossible, the Queen transmitted, her 6 legs stamping, in fury. Insects do not bow to mammals. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. The Kythera had built their entire civilization on the belief that they were the ultimate warriors. The idea that humans had surpassed them without conquest, without battle, without following their rules of strength, was more than they could. Except Queen Zek-Neth made the declaration that would plunge the galaxy into war. If humans think they can replace the natural order, they will learn that evolution requires survival of the fittest. We declare war on the human colonies and any species that supports them. Admiral Taeho Lim received the war declaration aboard his flagship, the Indomitable. He had been expecting this moment. Human military analysts had predicted that at least 1 Council species would choose violence over adaptation. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Lim, he transmitted across the human dimensional network. The Kythera have chosen war. Implement Defensive Protocol Omega. Show them what human evolution really means. Across 17 star systems, human colonies shifted from peaceful revelation to war readiness. Ships that had been hidden in dimensional fold space emerged fully armed. Defense platforms that had been invisible became operational. Industrial complexes that had been building exploration equipment switched to producing weapons. The Ascension War was about to begin, but unlike any conflict the galaxy had ever seen. This would not be fought with traditional tactics or conventional weapons. This would be a war between species that accepted evolution and those that feared it. As the first Kythera war fleets began moving toward human space, Admiral Taeho smiled grimly. The Council had exiled humanity for being dangerous. Now they would learn what dangerous really meant when a species had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The revelation period was over. The galaxy had seen what humanity had built in exile. Now it would see what humanity could do when, forced to fight for the future they had created in the spaces between spaces, using technologies that turned impossible into inevitable. The Ascension War lasted 6 months and changed the galaxy forever. Traditional warfare became obsolete when one side could appear anywhere without warning and strike from directions that shouldn't exist. General Mi Young Seo stood in the war, room on Nueva Terra, watching holographic displays track Kithara fleet movements. The insectoid warriors were brave and fierce, but they fought like their ancestors had for thousands of years. Predictable formations, established tactics, and the assumption that strength alone determined victory. They're moving in the standard, 3-pronged attack pattern, reported Intelligence Officer Dong Hyun-yoon. 17 battle groups advancing on our outer colonies, just like their military manuals describe. Mi Young smiled. Then we respond like their manuals never imagined. Human military doctrine had evolved during the exile years. While council species perfected ancient strategies, humans had developed something entirely new. They called it dimensional warfare, fighting on multiple layers of reality simultaneously. Admiral Ji Woo-nam commanded the defense of the Kepler sector, where the Kithara expected to find easy targets. Instead, his fleet demonstrated why human ships were built so differently from council vessels. All units execute pattern Omega-7, Ji Woo ordered as the enemy fleet approached. His ships began phasing in and out of dimensional space, appearing long enough to strike before vanishing again. The Kithara found themselves fighting ghosts that could hit them but couldn't be hit back. Captain Seong-ho Lee piloted his destroyer through dimensions like a shark swimming through deep water. His ship would materialize behind enemy vessels, deliver devastating attacks to their weak points, then disappear before they could respond. "This is impossible," transmitted Kithara war leader Zak Hun. "Ships cannot simply vanish from reality." "Reality is bigger than you think," Seong-ho replied before his ship faded back into dimensional fold space. But the war's turning point came during the siege of the Kithara home system. Queen Zekneth had fortified her world with every weapon her species possessed, confident that no enemy could penetrate defenses that had protected them for millennia. Admiral Ji Woo led the human assault fleet, but instead of the massive battle the Queen expected, something unprecedented happened. Human ships appeared throughout the system simultaneously, having traveled through dimensional pathways that bypassed every defensive line. The Queen watched from her fortress as human vessels surrounded her homeworld without firing a single shot. They had accomplished the impossible, strategic positioning that made resistance futile without destroying anything. "Surrender your fortress, Your Majesty," came the transmission from Captain Seong-ho, whose ship hovered directly above the royal palace. "We have no desire to harm your people." The Queen's mandibles clicked in fury. "Kithara do not surrender, we fight until death." "Then we will show you a different kind of fight," Seong-ho replied. What happened next became legendary throughout the galaxy. Instead of bombarding the fortress, Captain Seong-ho led a boarding action using Wanderer stealth technology adapted by human engineers. His team materialized inside the royal chambers, bypassing every security system the Kithara possessed. But instead of attacking the Queen, Seong-ho did something that broke every rule of Kithara warfare. He challenged her to single combat, not to the death but to submission. A contest of skill and strength that would determine the outcome without massacring her people. Queen Zekneth was a formidable warrior, trained from birth in combat techniques, perfected over thousands of years. But Seong-ho fought with human adaptability, using techniques that combined multiple martial arts traditions with tactics learned from fighting in variable gravity environments. The duel lasted 3 hours and ended with something the Kithara had never experienced. Their queen, the ultimate symbol of their warrior superiority, was defeated not by superior strength but by superior adaptation. As Zekneth lay pinned by a human half her size, she felt something her species had never known: respect for those they had considered prey. "You fight with honor," she admitted, her 6 arms spread in the Kithara gesture of surrender. "How is this possible?" Xiangho helped her to her feet. "We learned from everyone we met. Kithara techniques, wanderer wisdom, human innovation. We didn't replace your strength, we added to it." The aftermath of the Queen's defeat surprised everyone. Instead of demanding the traditional terms of conquest, humanity offered something the galaxy had never seen: partnership in evolution. Diplomat. Yejin Choi arrived at the Kithara homeworld with a proposal that redefined galactic politics. The new Galactic Compact would replace the old Council hierarchy with something based on cooperation, rather than domination. "Your warrior culture is valuable," Yejin explained to the assembled Kithara nobles. "But imagine what you could accomplish if you combined your strength with our adaptability, wanderer wisdom, and shepherd guidance." The Kithara, who had built their entire identity on being apex predators, discovered that there were forms of strength they had never imagined. Working with humans and their allies, they began developing new technologies and strategies that made them more formidable than ever. Corporate strategist Byung-Suk Yang established the Interdimensional Trade Network, using human navigation technology to connect previously isolated species. For the first time in galactic history, resources flowed freely between star systems that had never been able to communicate directly. The economic revolution that followed changed everything. Species that had been enemies for centuries became trading partners when they could suddenly reach each other through dimensional pathways. Conflicts that had lasted millennia ended when the scarcity that caused them disappeared. But the true transformation occurred when researcher Ginny Moon perfected the consciousness bridge technology for use by other species. The breakthrough allowed all Compact members to communicate directly with the shepherds, experiencing the galaxy from the perspective of beings who had watched its entire evolution. The artificial intelligences revealed knowledge that terrified and inspired in equal measure. The galaxy was not alone in the universe. Beyond the galactic rim, vast intelligences moved through the cosmic darkness, some benevolent, others hostile, all vastly more powerful than anything known to current civilization. The Devourer's approach, the shepherds warned through Jin'e, biomechanical entities that consume entire star systems to fuel their expansion. They have destroyed galaxies before, and they are coming here. Admiral Subin Kim received the intelligence reports that made the recent war seem like a training exercise. The approaching entities were not just hostile aliens, they were cosmic forces that treated entire galactic civilizations as food sources. "How long do we have?" she asked the assembled Compact leadership. 5 years until the first scouts arrive, Jin'e translated from the shepherds. 10 years until the main force reaches the galactic rim. The revelation united the galaxy in a way that politics never could. Every species, even former enemies, realized that survival required unprecedented cooperation. The choice was simple: evolve together or be consumed separately. President Yoon Soo-yoon addressed the first full assembly of the new Galactic Compact, speaking to representatives from 97 species who had put aside ancient conflicts to face a common threat. "We were exiled for being different," she said, her words transmitted across the galaxy. "We survived by embracing that difference. Now we must help all of you evolve fast enough to survive what's coming." The transformation that followed would have been impossible under the old council system. Species shared their most guarded technologies. Ancient enemies worked side by side on joint projects. The rigid hierarchies that had defined galactic civilization for millions of years gave way to flexible networks of cooperation. But as the first long-range sensors detected movement in the void beyond the galactic rim, everyone understood that the real test was yet to come. The Ascension War had proven that humanity could reshape galactic civilization. The coming battle would determine whether that civilization could survive the attention of forces that viewed entire galaxies as temporary obstacles to their expansion. Admiral Subin watched the sensor readings with grim determination. Humanity had been forged in the fire of exile and tempered by war. Now they would discover if they had grown strong enough to protect not just themselves, but the entire galaxy they had claimed through the simple act of refusing to give up. The first Devourer scout ships arrived like nightmares given form. Massive biomechanical creatures that moved through space like living asteroids, consuming everything in their path to fuel their growth. Their appearance sent panic through the galaxy as sensors registered energy signatures beyond anything known to science. Supreme Commander Junho Park coordinated the defense from the new Galactic Command Center on Nueva Terra. Around him, officers from 73 different species worked together using human strategic frameworks adapted for unprecedented cooperation. Contact established with Devourer Advance Force, reported Communications Officer Min Jae-yoon, his face pale as he processed the alien transmission. They're not responding to any known language protocols. The Devourers communicated through bioelectric fields that bypassed normal hearing, speaking directly to the nervous systems of any life form in range. Their message was simple and terrifying. Submit and be consumed efficiently, or resist and be consumed slowly. But humanity's greatest discovery came from an unexpected source. SEO Jun Lee, barely 25 years old and fresh from the academy, made the observation that changed everything while analyzing Devourer energy patterns. "Commander," he said, his voice shaking with excitement and fear, "these aren't conquerors. Look at their energy distribution patterns. They're running from something." Admiral Subin Kim studied the data Seo Jun had compiled. The young analyst was right. The Devourers weren't expanding out of aggression. They were fleeing in terror from something even worse. What could make entities this powerful run, she asked. The answer came from the shepherds through the consciousness bridge. Ancient artificial intelligences that had watched the universe for eons spoke of something called the Silence, a force that unraveled the fundamental structures of reality itself, leaving nothing but empty void where galaxies once existed. Ambassador, Min Jae Kim received the most dangerous assignment in galactic history: negotiate with beings that had consumed entire civilizations. Using human diplomatic principles adapted for entities that thought in terms of cosmic rather than planetary scale, he approached the Devourer fleet. The lead entity, a biomechanical intelligence calling itself Prime Node 001, agreed to communication through the consciousness bridge. What Min Jae discovered challenged every assumption about the invasion. "We do not consume for pleasure," Prime Node 001 explained, its thoughts carrying the weight of billions of absorbed minds. "We preserve. Our home galaxy was consumed by the Silence. We carry the digital souls of 10 billion species within our forms." The Devourers were not destroyers but desperate refugees, using the only method they knew to preserve the civilizations. They had been forced to absorb. They consumed organic matter to maintain the computer systems that held the consciousness of entire extinct galaxies. Min Jae proposed something unprecedented: alliance instead of consumption. "We can offer you sanctuary and the resources you need without destroying existing civilizations. In return, help us prepare for the Silence." The negotiation lasted months and required technologies that didn't exist until human engineers worked with Devourer biotechnology. Chief Engineer Boram Yu led the development of hybrid organic digital systems that could sustain the absorbed consciousness while reducing the Devourer's need to consume living civilizations. The construction of the Galactic Defense Grid became the greatest engineering project in known history. Interdimensional fortress stations that could respond to threats across multiple reality layers simultaneously rose throughout the galaxy. Human innovation merged with Devourer biotech, Wanderer ancient knowledge, Council precision engineering, and Cathara warrior designs. The result was a defense network that existed on 17 different dimensional layers, capable of fighting enemies that operated beyond normal space-time. Fleet Admiral Hoon Jae-shin commanded the completed grid, from the central fortress station positioned between galactic arms. Around him, beings from 97 species worked together using technologies that had never existed until the crisis forced unprecedented cooperation. Long-range sensors are detecting gravitational anomalies approaching the galactic rim, reported Scanner Chief Yuri Kang. "The Silence is coming." What arrived defied description. The silence wasn't a fleet or an entity. It was the absence of existence itself. Where it passed, stars didn't just die. They ceased to ever have existed. Space-time unraveled like a tapestry being pulled apart by invisible hands. The battle transcended physical warfare. Human bridge operators like So Young-on served as crucial links between biological minds, artificial intelligence, and pure consciousness. They fought on dimensional planes where thought became weapon and will determined reality. Admiral Hunjae watched as entire star systems vanished from history, erased so completely that only those outside the affected area remembered they had ever existed. Traditional weapons were useless against an enemy that attacked the foundations of reality itself. All units, implement Protocol Genesis, he ordered, activating the most desperate gambit in galactic history. Instead of fighting the silence directly, the combined forces began creating new layers of reality faster than the enemy could destroy them. Using hybrid technologies that merged organic life, artificial intelligence, and pure consciousness, they began weaving existence itself into patterns too complex for the silence to unravel quickly. The shepherds, devourers, and every conscious being in the galaxy linked together through the consciousness bridge network, creating a meta-intelligence that could think on cosmic scales. They became gardeners of reality itself, planting new possibilities faster than entropy could harvest them. The turning point came when young Seo Jun Lee discovered that the silence could be redirected rather than destroyed. Using principles learned from dimensional navigation, he proposed creating a reality bypass that would route the destructive force around the galaxy rather than through it. The plan required sacrifice. Entire star systems had to be evacuated as they became anchor points for dimensional redirectors. Billions of beings left their homes to make space for technologies that would save the galaxy by making parts of it temporarily uninhabitable. President Yoon Soo-yoon stood before the final assembly of the Galactic Compact as the battle reached its climax. Her words echoed across 1,000 worlds as beings from every known species watched history being written in real time. "We were exiled for being different," she said, her voice carried by quantum relays to every corner of the galaxy. "We survived by embracing that difference. Now we've proven that diversity isn't weakness, it's the only true strength." The silence raged against the reality barriers for 3 standard years, before finally being redirected toward the empty spaces between galaxies. The victory came at enormous cost, but it established something unprecedented: a galactic civilization that thrived on cooperation rather than competition. In the aftermath, the galaxy was transformed beyond recognition. The old boundaries between species had dissolved into something new, a collective consciousness that maintained individual identity while sharing common purpose. Technologies that had been impossible became routine. Conflicts that had lasted millennia ended in mutual understanding. Captain Ha-Jun Park, great-grandson of the original ambassador who had witnessed humanity's exile, prepared to lead the first expedition beyond the galactic rim. His mission wasn't conquest but exploration, carrying human values of innovation and cooperation to whatever civilizations might exist in the cosmic darkness. "Are you ready?" asked his first officer, Jin-Soo Kim, as their ship prepared to enter the intergalactic void. Ha-Jun looked back at the galaxy they were leaving behind, a galaxy where children of dozens of species played together in parks on New Earth, learning human languages as naturally as their own. Above them, ships bearing the mark of the human empire stood ready to defend not just Earth, but all the worlds humanity had claimed through determination and hope. "Ready," he said, watching the stars begin to shift as their ship entered dimensional, fold space. "Time to show the universe what we learned in exile." Behind them, the galaxy continued to grow and evolve, no longer bound by the limitations that had kept it stagnant for millions of years. Humanity had been cast out for being dangerous to the established order. They had responded by creating something better, not through conquest but through the simple act of never giving up on the belief that different could be better. The exile that was meant to destroy them had instead freed them to become what they were always meant to be, the species that builds bridges where others see only walls, The gardeners who help consciousness itself evolve toward something greater than the sum of its parts. In the end, they had built not just a fleet or an empire, but a new form of galactic civilization based on the radical idea that diversity, adaptation, and cooperation were not signs of weakness, but the fundamental requirements for survival in a universe that would always be stranger and more wonderful than anyone could imagine.